Welcome to a deep dive, listeners. You ready to dive into some conspiracy theories?
Always up for a good deep dive,
Yeah.
especially when it comes to a topic as juicy as the Illuminati.
This time around, you've given us some interesting reading material. We've got excerpts from Bloodlines of the Illuminati.
Oh, that's a classic. Where do they even begin with that one?
It dives right into this whole thing about 13 powerful families secretly controlling world events. The Illuminati, basically, pulling the strings from the shadows, shaping the world in their image.
Right, those shadowy figures everyone loves to speculate about.
Yeah.
But we've got something else thrown in the mix too, don't we?
Yeah, a partially redacted CIA document about something called the Gateway Experience. I have to admit, it's a pretty wild combo. Makes you wonder if there's any connection there or if it's just a random assortment of conspiracy theories.
Well, that's what we're here to find out, right?
All right.
To dig into these sources, see what kind of claims they're making, and most importantly, try to figure out if there's any truth to any of it.
Exactly. We're not here to tell anyone what to believe, but to really analyze these sources and maybe spark some interesting conversations along the way. So let's start with Bloodlines of the Illuminati. It really tries to paint this picture of these super powerful elites operating above the law, pulling strings, and making things happen for their own benefit.
Yeah, like that story about Friedrich Krupp, the German industrialist. They really lay on the details about his supposed shady dealings.
It's a pretty intense way to kick things off, I have to say, but it definitely grabs your attention, almost like they're setting the stage for this grand conspiracy.
Right, establishing the stakes, making it clear that these aren't just harmless theories. These are powerful forces, or so they claim, capable of shaping the world in significant ways.
And then they dive into how this whole Illuminati thing is supposedly structured. Different sections for drugs, media, politics, even mind control, all working together to achieve some big, mysterious objective.
A well-oiled machine of conspiracy, each part with its own specialized function. It's almost like they're trying to present it as a corporation, just with slightly more sinister goals.
It's a pretty wild concept. And of course, it wouldn't be a proper Illuminati deep dive without talking about the families, right? The ones they claim are at the heart of it all.
Oh, absolutely. Bloodlines really tries to weave this intricate web connecting these families through historical events, financial dealings, even alleged occult ties. They make it seem like everything is connected.
Like the Rothschilds, for example. They're a big part of this whole narrative.
Right, the Rothschilds. They're almost a staple in conspiracy theories about global finance. Bloodlines portrays them as having this almost mythical level of wealth and influence. They're pulling the strings from behind the scenes, manipulating governments and economies for their own gain.
Yeah, like they're playing some kind of high-stakes chess game with the world. It's all about control, about maintaining their grip on power. And a big part of that, according to the book, is controlling information, especially the media.
Absolutely. It's a common thread in a lot of conspiracy theories. Whoever controls the narrative controls the world.
It makes you wonder how much of what we see and hear is actually true, and how much of it has been carefully curated to shape our perceptions. Now, another family that really jumped out at me was the Astors. They get pretty wild with that one.
Oh yeah, the Astor family, they go way back. What is it they're claiming about them now?
Well, for starters, they say John Jacob Astor, the one who started it all, made his fortune through opium smuggling back in the 19th century.
Opium smuggling.
Oh.
Wow. I guess it doesn't get much shadier than that. It kind of makes you wonder about the origins of some of these massive fortunes, doesn't it?
Right. Where did all that money come from? And it makes you think about how some things never really change, just the products involved.
True. And it plays into that whole idea that the Illuminatis are behind global drug trafficking, using it to amass wealth and control populations. It's all connected.
And it doesn't stop there. They also try to tie the Astors to Satanism and the occult, even going so far as to call their mansion haunted.
Okay, now they're just getting dramatic. But I guess it adds to the intrigue, doesn't it? This whole air of mystery and danger surrounding these families.
Right. It's like they're trying to blur the lines between fact and fiction, making it harder to separate what's real and what's speculation. Now get this. Bloodlines even claims that Walt Disney wasn't who we thought he was. They suggest he was an illegitimate child and a high-ranking Freemason.
Wait, what? Walt Disney? Now that's a new one. They really went there, huh?
Yeah.
I mean, I know Freemasons get dragged into a lot of conspiracy theories, but Disney, that's a bold claim.
It is. They even analyze Disney films, specifically Fantasia, claiming they're full of hidden messages and imagery meant for mind control.
Mind control through cartoons. I mean, it sounds crazy, but I have to admit, it's a pretty creative take on the whole Illuminati agenda. Like they're subtly influencing us from a young age.
It definitely makes you think twice about those classic Disney movies. And it plays into that whole idea that the Illuminati are masters of hiding in plain sight. They're not just lurking in the shadows, they're embedded in our culture, shaping our perceptions in subtle, insidious ways.
It's a chilling thought.
For sure.
Yeah.
Now, before we go too far down that rabbit hole, there are a few other families mentioned in Bloodlines that we should at least touch on. They bring in the Russell family, claiming they have ties to the Mormon Church and the Jehovah's Witnesses.
Interesting. It seems like they're trying to connect all sorts of groups under this Illuminati umbrella. Powerful families, religious organizations, even the entertainment industry.
Right. It's like they're saying the conspiracy goes deeper than we can imagine, and everyone is somehow connected.
It's a lot to unpack.
It really is. And we haven't even gotten to the DuPont, Lai, Kennedy, Freeman, Van Dyne, Krupp, or McDonald families, yet they're all part of this grand narrative, too.
Wow, they really went all out with this one. It's like a who's who of
Mm.
influential families throughout history.
It's overwhelming, to be honest. But before we get too bogged down in all the names and connections, I want to shift gears for a moment and bring in that CIA document you mentioned earlier, Analysis and Assessment of the Gateway Experience.
Ah, yes. That's where things get really interesting. Because if Bloodlines is all about the who of the conspiracy, this document feels more like the how. It's a good point, isn't it?
Mm.
You've got Bloodlines laying out this whole network of supposed puppet masters, but it doesn't really dig into the specifics of how they actually control things.
It's like they just expect us to accept that these families have some kind of magic power over global events.
Right, but that's where this CIA document comes in. It's like a peek behind the curtain of government research on altered states of consciousness,
Mm.
something that's had people fascinated for decades, scientists and conspiracy theorists alike.
And it's not just some fringe theory, right? This is coming from the CIA, a legitimate government agency, which makes it even more intriguing. It kind of lends a weird air of credibility to these ideas of mind control and manipulation, even if it's not quite as sensational as Bloodlines makes it seem.
Exactly. And what's interesting is that the document itself is fascinating, even on its own. It talks about this program called the Gateway Experience. It was designed to see if they could use audio techniques to change brainwave patterns, to actually induce altered states in people.
I've heard of that. They use a specific kind of audio technology, right? Hemisync or something like that?
Yeah, hemisync, that's the one. And they suggest that if you listen to these recordings, you can experience all sorts of effects. Deep relaxation, heightened awareness, even out-of-body experiences.
Wild. It's like meditation on steroids or something, and it doesn't
Yeah.
stop there. They suggest these altered states could be useful for intelligence gathering, remote viewing, maybe even influencing events in some way.
It does sound pretty far out there, right?
Yeah.
But it speaks to this deep desire we have to tap into the hidden potential of the mind. But then it brings up these ethical questions too, right? I mean, if these techniques are real, if they really can manipulate or influence people, who gets to decide how they're used and on whom?
It's a slippery slope, for sure. But it's interesting how this document, which seems to be rooted in science and research, intersects with the, shall we say, more creative claims in Bloodlines.
It is interesting because both of them, in their own way, touch on this idea of hidden knowledge, right?
Yeah.
Like there are these secrets out there, levels of understanding that most people never even get close to.
Right. In Bloodlines, they're guarding this ancient wisdom, using it for their own evil plans. But with the CIA document, they're using scientific methods to explore these same realms of consciousness to try to tap into that hidden potential.
It's almost like they're both on the same quest, just coming at it from opposite directions. One through this lens of conspiracy and secret societies, the other through science and experimentation.
It really makes you wonder, what if they're both onto something here? What if there really are powerful forces out there shaping the world in ways we don't understand? And what if there are ways to tap into some kind of inner power, to expand consciousness and see past the illusions of everyday life?
Those are questions that have captivated people for centuries. Philosophers, mystics, now conspiracy theorists, they've all grappled with this. And these two sources, different as they are, they offer this really unique perspective on this whole debate between external control and inner power, you know?
It's like they're reflecting back our deepest fears and desires, wouldn't you say? On one hand, there's this fear of being controlled, manipulated, our lives dictated by forces we can't see. But then there's this desire for agency, for self-determination, for the ability to shape our own destinies.
It's a powerful contrast. And both of the sources we're looking at, They really tap into that. And I think it goes beyond just the Illuminati or mind control. It's about this fundamental question of what it means to be human in a world where information is power. And that line between reality and perception is getting blurrier all the time.
Especially these days, it's a lot to wrap your head around. It feels more relevant now than ever, you know? With social media, algorithms, deep fakes, information overload, it's easy to feel like we're losing control of our own narratives.
It's true. And that's why it's so important to engage with these ideas critically, to question what we're being told and develop our own sense of discernment.
We can't just accept everything we read or hear, right? We've got to be willing to dig a little deeper, look at things from different angles, and come to our own conclusions.
Exactly. And that's what this deep dive is really all about. We're not here to tell anyone what to think, but hopefully we're giving you the tools and information you need to think for yourself.
Exactly. We're here to explore, to analyze, to provoke some thought. But ultimately, it's up to you, the listener, to decide what you believe.
Now, before we move on, there's one more thread woven through these sources that I think is worth pulling on. It's a topic that often gets dismissed as superstition, but both Bloodlines and that CIA document, they both hint at its power and influence.
You're talking about the occult, right? Things are about to get a little spooky. Because Bloodlines doesn't hold back on the Illuminati's supposed involvement in all of that.
Oh, they really go all in on that. It's like they're saying these powerful families use occult rituals, symbols, all of that to enhance their power, influence events on a global scale.
Like some kind of secret magic to manipulate the world around them?
Exactly.
Mm.
Throughout the book, they're dropping these little hints, making connections to Satanism, witchcraft, all these secret societies. And it's not just dabbling. They're claiming these groups are totally enmeshed in it, using it to get what they want.
Okay, I have to ask, what about the Disney connection there? Because the book really goes there, saying Walt Disney wasn't just a Freemason, but that he put occult symbolism into his films on purpose.
It's definitely one of the more out there claims in Bloodlines.
Yeah.
But it speaks to this idea that they're hiding in plain sight, right?
Yeah.
They're not tucked away in a castle or bunker somewhere. They're influencing us through things we see every day, even entertainment.
It's a creepy thought if you think about it too long, especially for those of us who grew up on Disney. But how does the CIA document play into all this? Because it doesn't exactly scream occult conspiracy.
It doesn't, which is what makes it so fascinating when you put them side by side.
Yeah.
Because Bloodline says the occult is being used for all these evil purposes.
Right.
But that CIA document suggests that maybe it holds the key to unlocking something inside it, some kind of hidden potential.
Okay, now I really want to hear more about this. How does a document about altered states connect back to the occult?
Well, think about it. Meditation, astral projection, dream work. These practices have been linked to the occult for centuries. People saw them as ways to access other levels of consciousness, things hidden from normal perception. And that's essentially what the Gateway experience is trying to do, at least according to that document.
So it's like instead of chanting and rituals, they're using frequencies and technology to get to the same place.
Exactly. Taking the tools of science and aiming them right at the mysteries of the occult. Who knows? Maybe there's some scientific basis for things we've always thought were supernatural. It's an interesting thought.
It really is. It makes you wonder if both of these sources are kind of onto something in their own way. Like, what if the truth about the occult is somewhere in between? Some blend of ancient wisdom and modern science, a realm of danger and potential all at once.
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? And I don't think we're going to crack that one today. But what we can do is encourage you to keep digging, explore these ideas, and see what conclusions you come to.
Right. At the end of the day, that's the whole point of these deep dives, isn't it? We're not here to tell you what to believe, but to give you information, different perspectives to consider, and then let you form your own opinion.
Exactly. And who knows, maybe in doing that, you'll uncover some hidden truths about yourself and the world around you.
We've covered a lot today. Secret societies, mind control, the occult. It's a lot to process.
It really is. But it all boils down to this basic human need to understand what shapes our world, right? Political forces, economic forces, maybe even spiritual forces, whatever it is. We're always seeking knowledge, searching for meaning. And sometimes that search takes us to some strange and unsettling places.
It's true. We're always looking for patterns, trying to connect the dots. And sometimes when you're searching for meaning like that, you end up face to face with some wild possibilities.
And that's part of the fun of it. It's about asking those questions, challenging what we think we know, and being open to the idea that maybe there's more to reality than we realize.
And even if we don't get all the answers, sometimes the search itself can be incredibly rewarding.
Absolutely. It can challenge our beliefs, change our perspective, and help us understand ourselves a little better along the way.
So to wrap up this deep dive, keep exploring, keep questioning, and never be afraid to venture into the unknown.
Because the world is full of wonders and mysteries, you never know what you'll discover if you just open your mind to the possibilities.
That's all for this deep dive, listeners. Thanks for coming along for the ride. And remember, the truth is out there. Or is it? Until next time, keep those minds open.